So I recently bought 7 well-respected film cameras for a fraction of the cost that they usually would be. How is this possible, I hear you ask? And the reason is, they're all broken. Or are they? So I don't know anything about camera repair, but I wanted to see if I could get some of these plastic paperweights up and running again, and thereby dodging the expensive price tags that they usually have. And I gotta say, the results I had with this are quite surprising. I definitely would have been better off keeping this information to myself and reaping all the benefits, but that's just not good content, is it? It's widely accepted that once a point and shoot kicks it, then it's pretty much done for. And when you get one of these open and you see the massive circuitry and snake's wedding that's going on inside of one, you kind of understand why they're notoriously hard to repair. And yes, all the cameras that I bought are the same model. There's a reason for this though, guys, so bear with me. And the camera in question is the Olympus MJU. These usually sell for around 120 quid, film tested. If you're watching this in the future, they're probably more like 2 grand. But I didn't pay any more than 20 quid for any of these. And if you know the MJU, then you know how good it is. Maybe not as capable or as pretty or as sharp as its younger, better looking brother. Might be venting some sort of inner anxieties there. And if you don't know the MJU and you don't own one, then pay attention because I'm about to sort you out. And all of these cameras were of course bought from our favourite virtual bargain bucket, eBay. So, camera number 1, 15 quid, considerably cheaper than a working one. I may have thrown myself in the deep end a little bit here and bought a camera with the simple description of not turning on. And to be fair to the eBay seller, he wasn't lying. I put a battery in it and nothing, stone dead, no signs of life. It was at this point that I was starting to think that this may be harder than I originally thought, especially when I went on Google and tried to search for MJU repairs and found very little. But upon removing the battery, I noticed that one of the little terminals was missing, and it definitely wasn't going to turn on without that. So to fix this, and I'm not proud to admit this, I literally bodged a little bit of copper wire into a sort of paperclip shape and crammed it into the holes. And just kicked straight on. It's been fine ever since. Here are some very mediocre photos that I've taken with it. Now this is a very ugly, potentially dangerous and stupid repair, but if it's stupid and it works, is it really stupid? So that's 100% success rate so far. I definitely wouldn't feel comfortable selling this camera on with the state of the repair that I've done. So this one I'll probably be hanging on to. Camera number 2, 18 quid. Yeah, this thing was toast, guys. The eBay seller said it had a problem with the shutter and also the battery door, as you can clearly see, has failed. So I opened this one up to have a little look inside. If you want to do that with your MJU, it is these 4 screws here. This is also a great time for a little disclaimer. If you open up a point and shoot or any camera with a flash, you gotta be super careful. You gotta make sure that the flash charge is drained. You can do this by leaving it with no batteries in it or discharging it. I would do the former, it's probably much safer. And you gotta be really careful around those little capacitors, because depending on what camera you have and how powerful the flash is, then that shit will try and stop your heart if you touch it wrong. Ask me how I know. When I opened this guy up, I grounded the capacitor in it and there was an almighty spark, and I must have fried some circuitry because it went from turning on and not firing to not turning on at all. So this one is dead. Might have worked if I hadn't f***ed up, but now we'll never know. Silver lining though, now we've got a parts camera. And this is why I bought all the same models, guys. So camera number 3, £8. £8.
£8? Shut it.
This one was just sold as spares repairs, and when it turned up, I put a battery in it, and it just worked. It just worked. This actually isn't the first time I've had this buying cameras off of eBay, especially from a seller that doesn't specialise in film cameras. To people that are around film cameras, operating them makes sense, but to someone that doesn't know, it might seem like some sort of ancient lost knowledge or secret, like how they built the pyramids, or how the Turin Shroud is actually the world's first photograph by Leonardo da Vinci. Look it up, thank me later. Here are some more photos I took with it. Camera number 4, £20. Now, considering this was the most expensive of all the cameras, it looked like shit. Seriously, this thing looks like it's starting to fossilise. I don't know where the previous owner had stored it, but by looking at it, I'm guessing it was some sort of hot oven, the way that the plastic was starting to crack. This guy turned on, but the shutter wouldn't fire, and it was also missing a little plastic film window that goes on the back cover. Now, for some reason unbeknown to me, when I fired the shutter with the film door open, the whole thing just came alive again. I don't know if this is some sort of factory reset or if I'm just magic, but I'm not complaining. The only thing I had to do then was solve the issue of the missing film window. As it turns out, I needn't worry, because I found the film window wedged into the take-up spool. These eBay sellers are slipping. A couple of dabs of glue later and this thing was as good as new, apart from the fact that it looked like white hot trash. On a side note, these example photos are double film, which I think is souped Ultramax 400. What camera are we on? What number is this? Camera number 5, £13.50. Now this camera had signs of life, but it wasn't really doing much. The wheel was spinning, but the hamster was dead. So I cracked her open and found some suspicious funky white powder sat on the circuitry, sort of like this was the world's most inefficient drug mule. One generous helping of electrical contact cleaner later, and she was up and running. Now it's worth noting that this has been the best one of all. It's fast, it's responsive, autofocus is bang on, so much so that I thought it deserved the cleaner back off of the parts camera. Slip that pin out and off it comes. Dead easy. Number 6, £15. So I bought this camera with the most daunting problem yet. Film won't wind. And the eBay seller knew his shit. It wasn't having any of it. So after taking it apart and inspecting all the boards and the gears, I couldn't see anything obviously wrong with it. So I thought, why don't I just hit the rewind button in some off chance that it would bring it back to life? And well, it did exactly that. I was pretty mewed out at this point, so I gave this camera to my girlfriend to run a test roll through, and she got some nice pictures of some clowns. Number 7, £12. Now this one was a fine specimen. The shutter wasn't firing, it wasn't winding the film, and it had a loose front flap, which is never good. I applied my newfound knowledge of firing a shutter with the film door open. It worked. Now have I just been lucky twice, or is this something that's actually built into the cameras? If someone can let me know, I would really appreciate it. The front cover is easy enough to fix. Whip out the parts camera again, get a toothpick and sort of wedge it underneath the flap whilst putting pressure down to pop it off and revealing a small ball bearing which destiny is to be lost forever. Trust me, you will lose this. I did, and by some miracle I found it 3 hours later stuck to the back of my arm. The winding issue wasn't as easy to solve. No miracle fix of just tapping the rewind button this time. No, this camera made me work for it. After getting it stripped down, it was quite clear that the gears that transport the film were mashed, like proper mashed. So out comes the parts camera again to offer up what little it had left. It was just a case of taking the good gears from the parts camera and swapping them over with the bad gears from this camera. If you do this, these two screws here that hold in this metal plate are reverse thread. Forget everything you know, lefty tighty, righty loosey. But that solved it. And as a bonus, this camera actually came with some expired Colorama shit, so I just fired that for it. So I ended up with 6 of these bloody things for around what it would cost you to buy one listed as working, which I don't think is bad considering that I don't have a clue what I'm doing. But even after all of this, I can't recommend you try and do this. I feel like I got lucky with a lot of these cameras, and I can't promise you'd have the same experience. But hopefully this video offers some comfort to someone in the same situation as me, scouring the dark corners of the internet trying to find a solution for their MJU problems. I might try and do this again, maybe with something more expensive. That depends how stupid I feel.